One of the biggest moments in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, I wasn't watching the screen, I was watching the audience. Odysseus was brutally taking on Penelope's suitors, and while I was struggling to look what was happening on screen, the violence of it, everyone around me seemed completely still and taken by it. No gasps, no people looking away, no visible reaction. And just for a moment, I stopped thinking about whether Christopher Nolan was making a good film. Instead, I started wondering whether we as an audience have become so desensitized to violence in cinema that we've stopped reacting to it altogether. Now, before anyone races to the comments, this isn't a video attacking violence in film or video games or in the media. We see violence every day on our social media page, real violence. I also won't be entertaining comments calling this film woke. If that's the conversation you're hoping to have, this is not the place for it. I will delete your comments. And I should make something else clear. I am not a historian. I can't tell you whether every costume, sword, or historical detail is accurate because I simply don't know. This isn't that review. This is a review of someone who loves classic cinema. If you're new to this page, welcome. My name's Cassidy Krieger. I run Hollywoodland Photos, a platform dedicated to cinema from the 20th century. I make my own films, but my films are basically period romances, and I always avoid watching violent films. I have never seen The Gladiator. I have never seen Troy, because up until about a week ago, my only experience with The Odyssey came from The Simpsons, and I am both ashamed and proud of that, because I like to think of myself as a fairly intelligent person. But thanks to Universal Pictures, I was one of the very lucky few invited to see The Odyssey early at IMAX in Melbourne, Australia. It's the only cinema in Australia presenting the film in IMAX 70mm. Because Nolan shot this film entirely on IMAX cameras, I don't think I could have experienced this film in a better way. I feel very, very privileged to have seen it this way. So before seeing the film, I wanted to understand what The Odyssey actually was. So very quickly, it's an ancient Greek epic believed to have taken shape almost 3,000 years ago. Traditionally attributed to Homer, but here's something really fascinating. We don't actually know who Homer was, or even if Homer was just one person. Scholars have spent centuries debating whether the Odyssey came from one extraordinary poet or generations of oral storytellers before it was even written down. But producer, director, writer extraordinaire Christopher Nolan said he didn't want this to feel like a museum piece. He wanted people to emotionally connect with it, and I think that's exactly why he made some of the choices that he did. One of those choices was the language. Everyone speaks in contemporary American accents, and the dialogue feels very modern. Initially, I found that really jarring, and my friend who came with me looked at me and said, "American accents?" I kept expecting something that sounded older. Nolan explained that this was intentional. He didn't want audiences distracted by people attempting some invented ancient Greek accent because, of course, nobody actually knows what ancient Greek sounded like. So I do completely understand that reasoning, but it did leave me wondering something though. Have filmmakers reached a point where they no longer trust us as the audience to meet a story halfway? And I don't mean necessarily Shakespearean dialogue. I simply wonder whether modern audiences are now seen as needing everything translated into contemporary language before we'll emotionally invest in a story. I don't know the answer, and maybe Nolan and the studios that make these films every single day made the right choice, because millions of people who have never read Homer will now connect with the story. In fact, I am one of them. Speaking of Nolan's writing, the non-linear structure was one of my favorite parts of the film. Every time I thought I'd settled into the story, Nolan revealed another piece of Odysseus's journey. Interestingly, that's really faithful to Homer. The original poem also begins in the middle of Odysseus' story before revealing much of what had happened later. So perhaps ancient audiences liked a good flashback story too. And Odysseus, Matt Damon is incredible. He is still the icon that he was 20, 30 years ago. He doesn't play Odysseus as some untouchable hero. He plays him as a man, exhausted, haunted, stubborn, and someone absolutely infuriating to watch. Sometimes, as the audience member, I wanted to yell at this man. Why would you insist on hearing the sirens? Why would you willingly enter the Cyclops cave? Stop making terrible decisions. But then I realized I'm judging him because I already know the mythology, but he doesn't. His pride, curiosity, and confidence are exactly what make him such an interesting character. Damon deserves at least an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. I don't know what the rest of the year is going to bring, but his performance was mind-blowing. He held that film. Incredible. And this cast, I mean, besides Matt Damon, this cast was stacked. Anne Hathaway completely stole every scene she was in. Penelope isn't just waiting for Odysseus to come home. She is leading, protecting, and surviving. Honestly, I didn't expect Tom Holland to make me emotional, but he did. His Telemachus completely won me over. He's so young, Tom Holland. Like, he's my age, but he seems so youthful and childlike. And watching this child search for the father he's never truly known became one of the emotional centers of the film for me, because I can, in many ways, relate. And I think that's the beautiful thing about storytelling, is that we can relate to it no matter when it was first told and no matter what century we're living in. Charlize Theron, oh my gosh, was breathtaking as Calypso. Every time the film returned to her island, it felt like taking a deep breath before plunging back into chaos. Samantha Morton terrified me as Circe, but by the end of her time with Odysseus, I almost understood her. And Zendaya, she is Zendaya. She had relatively little screen time, but every scene she was in carries so much wisdom and authority that I completely understood why Christopher Nolan reportedly called some of her takes perfect. My only criticism with those women and those characters is that I wanted more time with them. With the performances this strong and layered and beautiful, I found myself wishing the film had paused with them just a little bit longer, but then we would have had a 5-hour movie instead of a 3. So now this is a special mention for my man, Robert Pattinson. Rob was Antonius and he was fantastic, but full disclosure, I was a die-hard twihard. I remember when I was 14, I turned to my mum. Mum was driving in the car and I said, "Mum, don't laugh at me." She goes, No, what's wrong?" I said, "I really believe in my stomach, in my soul, that I'm going to marry Robert Pattinson one day." And my mother, God bless her, did not laugh. She goes, "Well, anything can happen." I really believed it. So it's that serious for me. And every time this man appeared on that screen, my 14-year-old self briefly took control of my body. I was like, trying not to do the Edward Cullen screaming I used to do when Edward Cullen would appear on screen. So was I reacting because Antonius was terrifying, or was I reacting because Edward Cullen has permanently destroyed my brain? The jury remains out, but Robert Pattinson, you were so good. You're such a good actor. You are such a good actor. He really is. The cinematography was phenomenal. There were moments where the sea looked so immense that I genuinely felt seasick, but I guess that's also seeing it on IMAX where you feel like you're being consumed by the sea. But the true star of the film for me was, my apologies if I get this name wrong, Ludwig Göransson's score. Please correct me on how to say it. I've looked it up and I can't say it. But it is haunting, ancient, powerful. There are moments where I could actually physically feel the score under my feet in the cinema. It doesn't just simply accompany the story, it becomes a part of the story. It really was. I kept thinking the sound design and the score of this movie is going to win Academy Awards. It was just chills. So I wanted to make this quick video so I can get my thoughts out there, because I honestly went into it. I said to my friend who came with me, I said, I'm not going to do a review. I don't feel smart enough. I don't think I'll have anything to say about it. When I was watching it, I thought, I'm definitely not going to review this. I'm not smart enough. I don't have anything to say about it. But then when I slept on it, I thought to myself, I was lucky enough to see it early. I had reactions to it, and people are going to go into this feeling like they don't know what Homer or the Odyssey is either. So if they can watch this and be like, okay, maybe I will go see it. Because Christopher Nolan didn't make me an expert on Homer. He didn't turn me into a historian. But he did make me do something I never expected. He made me want to go home and read more about the Odyssey, read more about Greek mythology. And I think that's one of the greatest compliments I could give to a filmmaker and give to this film. So, would I recommend Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey? Absolutely. Despite my issues with the violence, and it was violent and it was gory, and the amount of times I had to do this, or like look at my popcorn box and just like stare at it and try not to like take in what was happening right in front of my eyes. Despite wishing we had more time with the women, I really do think this is one of Nolan's best films. I think it will go down in history. I think it's going to blow box office records. people are like, IMAXs around the world are booking out for weeks already. And I think it deserves to be seen in IMAX. I think you deserve to see it on the biggest screen possible. Comfortably give this film 4.5 out of 5 stars. The half is taken because I don't like violence. And I wanted more time with Zendaya. So, but other than that, I didn't think I'd like it. It's, like I said, it's not my sort of film. Give me The Ghost of Mrs. Muir or Moulin Rouge or Wuthering Heights any day. So I didn't think this is my sort of thing. But I think an epic like this, you're always going to enjoy it because it's an epic for a reason. So that's my review on the Odyssey. Let me know your thoughts. I'm dying to know. And like I said, I don't entertain woke comments and stuff like that. I just entertain nice, thoughtful comments on your reasons for believing things and stuff like that. Thank you so much. I'll be back with my newest Elvis video in a couple of days for all my Elvis people, my community. I'll see you very soon and take care and enjoy the Odyssey.